This is spoiler chat for Leave the World Behind. If you are hearing this because you're watching it on YouTube, you haven't heard the main review, check the link in the description. Otherwise, listen on because we're going to spoil Leave the World Behind. So, was there anything big that you needed to spoil about this or that bothered you about it? Maybe we should set it up for people who haven't seen the movie and don't care about spoilers.
Set it up.
What? Okay, so in this movie, you've got Julia Roberts and her family, her husband and 2 children. They rent a beach house. They go to the beach house. While they're at the beach house, weird things like the power going out and their phones aren't working very well and things like that are happening. And so it's weird, but they're on vacation, so they don't care. Then Mahershala Ali and his daughter show up at their front door, claim to own the house and that they need to stay with them because something is going on in the city. They don't want to go back to the city because crazy things are happening.
A blackout.
Right. They don't say crazy things. They just say we can't go to the city because there's a blackout. This is our house. We know we rented it to you, but we'd like to stay here the night. They allow them to stay the night. Over the course of the movie, you find out that like the Mahershala Ali and his daughter know more about this than what they're leading on. And the family, weird things start happening around the house. The cell phones are completely dead. No GPS, no electronics, no TV, nothing. And as time goes on, you learn more and more about these characters. And then towards the end of the movie, they bring back a character who made a brief appearance at the beginning, a survivalist. They go to visit that survivalist's house, and this is like the big finale of the movie for the most part, where they're like trying to get this survivalist to give them medicine for one of their kids. And he won't do it, and it's a will they, won't they gun standoff, I would say. And that's roughly where the movie ends, I would say. There's a resolution to that, but I want to talk about the animals, and then we'll go into some of the more philosophical stuff, okay?
Sure.
Logistically, animals, right? They act weird when the weather changes. What happened in this movie had nothing to do with the weather.
Right.
So why are these animals acting weird again? What's the explanation for that?
So I believe what it is right. Whatever took out all of the satellites and all the cell towers and that kind of thing is probably some type of electromagnetic EMP type thing, right?
Okay.
I mean, it could have been a hacking type thing, but
sure.
I think the idea is like they act weird right before a thunderstorm, right? Because there's something in the air, like electrical weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the idea of the animals being weird, is because there was some sort of weird vibe in the air from whatever hacked all the systems, that noise that kept happening, the radioactive pulse or whatever noise.
Mm-hmm. And where was that noise coming from?
That was they explained that as like a targeted attack. Like it's they came up with a frequency or something that causes like radiation poisoning from long exposure to the sound or something like that.
Which is not possible, but okay.
I don't know.
You can't get radiation poisoning from a sound.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm no scientist, but I'm pretty sure you can't get radiation poisoning from a sound.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, man? Who knows?
But it's fine. I think my problem with those things, right? The animals and the radiation from a sound and stuff like that is like there is a kernel of truth to that. And instead of just having a few animals be weird, you've got a flock of whatever
flamingos
in their pool, and you've got not 10 deer staring at you from the hedge line, not being scared away, but you've got 50 of them staring at you at a tool shed in the middle of the
point blank. Yeah.
Right. And it was kind of like, what are we doing here? We're just being weird for weird's sake. This is like no longer a realistic scenario, I would say.
They really leaned into the animals way too much. I think my biggest problem with the film is essentially they tried to posit like, okay, so what would this look like? How would this go down? Like, what is the order of events? Like, what
Right.
would happen in this family if the inevitable happened, kind of a thing. And I don't think it would look like this. It's kind of like
I
this.
agree.
It's this slow drip of
Mhm.
like, is something happening? It seems like something's happening, but is it happening? When really everything is totally normal. I mean, like they're living in a mansion
Mhm.
and listening to music on a record player. Like their world is totally normal, except their cell phones don't work for the vast majority of this film. I mean, they're super
Sure.
freaked out and probably they're aware that things are happening and they should be scared for the inevitable future. But like their present is fine. Like nothing is wrong in their present as they're experiencing it, which
Sure.
is an interesting idea, right? Like there's a commentary there, right? Where like they're literally in the lap of luxury in this house while the world is falling apart and they can care about it, but like are not experiencing it until the end. Then once teeth
Mhm.
are falling out, they're experiencing it for sure. But this is not how it would go down. Like I mean, wars exist, right? People have been in places that were peaceful and then all of a sudden were not peaceful and bombs
Mhm.
are going off. Like you're aware that your country is under attack, I think. Much sooner, much quicker.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I generally agree that I don't think it would go down like this. We should say this is spoiler section, so the explanation that the movie presents is that we've been cyber attacked and they're doing things that they can do from a distance to hurt us and create chaos essentially, and that in creating this chaos, the Americans essentially will destroy themselves because we can't handle not having flawless infrastructure. Evidently, we will literally murder each other if we can't have cell phone signals, which might be the case in small pockets, but I don't think all of society would disappear if the cell phones go down, like this movie kind of brings
Hold
forward.
on. This movie isn't saying that.
I I mean that's essentially what they set up as far as like what the antagonist is doing, right?
But hold on, you mean Kevin
One of the
Bacon?
characters literally says like the Mahershala Ali says the entire goal is to create chaos and then we will kill it. We will defeat ourselves. To me, that's like Americans can't handle this.
Okay, yeah, sure. I think it goes a little bit further than just like we cut off the cell phones, right? Because like airplanes are falling out of the sky. Like it's not just people don't have cell phones, it's that every airplane has crashed. You know what I mean? Like people have already
Right.
died.
Sure. Tragic things happen. I agree. It's more than just cell phones depicted in the movie. But I think if the entire network went down, right? And things were in chaos, you would have looting, you would have rioting, you would have things like that happen for sure. It would be rough going. But I think the American spirit would not be crushed and we would not be murdering each other en masse. You know what I mean? Over time. I think we'd probably be working on getting the infrastructure back as fast as we possibly could.
Yeah.
And then we would do that in pockets and eventually we'd be back to full speed and God help whoever attacked us because history has shown we will do moral and completely immoral things to people that attack us. And so
Is your reading so at the very end there's bombs going off in New York City, right? Or
Mhm.
Jersey or something? New York. It's New York.
I didn't read those as bombs. I read them more as like ways that you could explode power stations from a distance. You know what I mean?
Oh, really? Oh, so you thought that was a cyber attack, not a bomb being dropped.
I mean, the Mahershala Ali character describes a tactic here where all of it is cyber attacks and that you never have to set foot on land here in order to attack the country.
Sure. So I would say a couple things. One is he basically lays every card he knows on the table. So we know what information he has.
Mhm.
And then this is his best guess, right? I think we're allowed to
Sure.
look at his best guess and be like, well, that's your guess, but that doesn't mean that is what's happening. Like we know what he knows. He doesn't know more than us. He's told us by this point what his client has told him. And
I agree
his
with
guess
that,
is
but
this
that's the only
three-pronged
information
attack.
they gave us, and his client is in the know. In theory.
Gotcha.
Based on what he says, his client is in the know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? His client knows more than
Yeah.
because he's like a government client. He's high up.
I
or
guess
whatever.
the other thing I would say is it's not just we lost power everywhere, right?
Mhm.
One, planes are dropping from the sky. Two, some people are losing their teeth and dying of radiation poisoning, right?
Mhm.
And then they're in rural areas. I think in the city there probably already would be chaos, don't you think? You don't think in the city with people starting to like, there's no power at the hospitals, like, and then all people are like dying of radiation poisoning, and planes are like hitting buildings and stuff like that. Like, I think there'd be more than just a little looting. There would be chaos. But
I don't disagree that there would be chaos. I disagree that the ultimate result of this chaos is that the United States would fall.
Gotcha.
I disagree with that part.
I gotcha. At a certain
Has
point,
nobody
though,
seen Independence Day? You know what I mean?
well, they had power. I
They
think at a
blew up
certain
the
point-
White House.
At a certain point, don't you have mass starvation like within a very short amount of time? Like if people in New York City, there's no farms there. Like, how do they get their food?
Sure. There's some adjusting to happen for sure. I'm not saying they're over it overnight. You know what I mean? You're doing some damage for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're destroying the nation of the United States. I'm not trying to be like, what's the word? Jingoistic about this, or what? I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think it would take more than this to. Typically, history has shown that when people attack us, we dig in. You know what I mean? The flags come out, and people who weren't patriotic overnight start waving the flag around here. And so
Sure.
I think if we found out foreign people were attacking us and that's why this is happening, you would get the opposite result of if your goal is to make us turn against each other. Because history has shown that's not what happens when foreign people attack
Well, and
us.
doesn't the movie kind of show that as well? In that, like that Mexican standoff, like they didn't kill each other.
Sure. Yeah. And also like that character who didn't want to share ratted on his his neighbor to try to get them to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. I think really the movie has less to say about that. I mean, it has a lot to say about that. I just think what they say about that is stupid and clunky. More to say about the mother and like her being just a harsh person and the way her daughter has interpreted that and how her daughter has internalized a weird value in just finishing the TV show Friends. You know what I mean? This piece of media that has nothing to do with real life.
Yeah.
And that's all she really cares about. And she feels like though she relates to those people far more than she's ever been able to relate to her mother, type of thing. She feels that those people are more her friends than her mother cares about her, basically. I thought that was better told than this bigger cyber attack story with a bunch of
And
goofiness.
the friends thing, and that's what ends the movie as well. But that's probably the biggest message of the movie is the kind of this indictment. I took it as like an indictment on our mediaized complacency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we essentially are consuming ourselves to death by watching TV, and you know, like they specifically talk about how Friends is not real life. It's never been the way things were, even when it was on the air.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl is in the midst of the end of the world, and the thing she cares the most about is just watching the show. Like she's more invested in this fake show than she is in her real world. And I think that is like the overall commentary of the film. You know, like the fact that even the billionaire with the bunker to survive he needs to have a DVD wall in order to survive.
Sure.
Like all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I loved that part, to be honest.
Oh,
I was
sure.
like,
Yeah. I was happy with
like,
that.
there's no better advertisement for physical media than if the end of the world's happening around you and you need to entertain yourself in the bunker, better not rely on streaming.
Yeah. Right. I like that kind of dark satire for sure. What I thought was basic, what was kind of annoying is this, like, it just turned into we all should have been preppers, you know, like, oh, you
Right.
like you think cash will do you anything? If you don't have gold buried in your backyard, you're foolish, you know?
Right.
It was just ham-fisted about the way they talked about it. It's like, oh, here, I'll give you $1,000. He's like, what's money gonna do for me? It's like, well, all the Apple Pay is done. You're like, Apple Pay isn't working. You know, what else should I do? Money's the only thing that's worth anything. And, you know, the prepper is like, oh, if you only knew. It was so like, I don't know, basic, I guess. It picked a side. But I don't know. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed the camera work. It had really, really well done CGI in the sense of this was definitely a set, like in a warehouse somewhere, like in a, you know, like a studio warehouse.
Mhm.
But they did a lot of work CGI wise to, like, if it was panning by glass, they would put reflections of whatever's supposed to be on the glass behind it, you know, to make it look like they filmed at a real house outside or something like that. I was just like,
Oh,
they took the time to make it look like a real house in a real
you didn't
spot.
think this was a real house?
It probably was a real house for sure, but
Okay.
anything in the house was filmed in a studio.
Really?
Like they recreated the house inside somewhere.
I am not going to disagree. I didn't make a note either way, but I think you could shoot this on location. I don't think there was
Right.
anything in it that
I think you
couldn't shoot on
could, but I'm
location.
pretty sure that they did not.
Hmm.
Just from like watching it, I get this sense that, like, yes, the house existed. They shot exteriors of the house for sure. I think they recreated the house in a studio and did a lot of those things in studio. And I was just very impressed by some of the reflection work they did and some of the, you know, the back mats and stuff like that.
Sure. Let's talk about Mahershala Ali's character.
Sure.
You liked it, at least his acting performance.
I thought his first scene did a really good job of, you didn't know if you could trust him or not.
Sure.
Like they held his card very well in that first scene, and he played it so chill, so classy. I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm. But then, like, very shortly after that, they show him and his daughter, and they're having a discussion that substantiates everything they told the family upstairs.
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
like,
for
oh,
sure.
he is a good guy, and he's not actually going to do it.
Yeah, that takes all the wind out of their sails as soon as they have their own POV.
Right.
Yeah.
So it felt like, I don't know, silly to set up all that tension and then like immediately release it and then try to set it up again.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because,
his character
you've
was
already
rough.
told us that they're not devious, but yet you're still gonna make all the other characters suspect.
Yeah, I think his character was rough, but his acting was good.
Yeah, his acting was good. It was fine. I don't know about good. It did the job. The other issue I had with that character was, so his wife probably died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
And he doesn't tell the daughter that this is probably what happened, even though she seems to know pretty much that this is probably what happened because they're not hearing from the mother or anything. And then at one point, he physically witnesses a plane that has already crashed and then a plane that crashes right in front of him. And he just doesn't seem to have much reaction to the idea that his wife is dead at all through the whole movie. No reaction whatsoever.
Agreed.
And I just thought that was weird that there's just no emotional reaction to that. And instead it's played like he's holding this information from his daughter to protect her, even though she's told him to his face that she generally knows this has already happened. And
I think a couple things.
He's holding. Go ahead.
I think the human psyche does strange things when you hold out hope, right? And he doesn't know she's dead because they can't communicate. She could easily be alive and just can't tell them. She was on a plane at some point, but is that when the planes were flying? You know what I mean? Because like he saw a plane flying and crash. So like some planes didn't crash until that morning, and she was on a plane like 2 days ago. You know what I mean? So I think he was holding out hope and he wasn't letting himself let go of that hope yet. So I could see him not overreacting at this point. I think the way that they did that plane crash scene was so ham-fisted. Like literally he goes to the beach and he sees a watch on the beach and he goes to investigate the watch and then there's a human hand attached to it, which is an interesting image. I've never seen that in a movie before. You know what I mean? Like that's a big reveal. But then the camera kind of pans out and you see literally bodies strewn in every direction, a plane crash directly in front of him. And it's
like
as if
bright red luggage all over the place. Like
how
impossible to notice.
How in the world did he not notice any of these dead bodies in the plane? But he just saw this watch and then was surprised. And there's a dead body right next to it, the owner of the arm. It's the kind of thing. It's like super deceptive filmmaking because he saw everything that we saw in the full reveal, but just ignored it for this watch. It was very, very odd.
Agreed.
And then, the Tesla thing.
See, to me, that was like the one thing where if we were cyber attacked, that kind of made sense to me.
That one made the least sense to me.
Okay, let's hear it.
I will say this. Okay, so let's say you are a cyber attacker. Okay.
Sure.
You're a hacker. And you're very smart and you've spent years figuring out how to attack our satellite system, right? To disable our satellite network. That's a very specific task that you have to spend a lot of time and thought doing, right? And then in this movie, they posit that the same people that did that also cyber attacked the Teslas to drive themselves and crash and block off the highways. Like entrances. And I just feel like those are such different cyber attacks, both incredibly difficult to achieve. And like, just because you do one does not mean you're like at all prepared to do the other, Like they're so like separate from each other as far as like what you need to do to achieve those goals. It's not like the same thing, it's like two amazing accomplishments of cyber attacking, Because they have to like hack the cars, drive them to specific spots. It's all got to be organized. It's very, very logistically hard.
I don't disagree I think it would be hard. I'm no hacker, so I honestly don't know how hard it would be, but I'm assuming it would be hard. And I can't believe you're going to make me defend this movie, but I think as far as like the specifics of each attack and how difficult they are and the fact that like you'd probably need an army of hackers to do half of what they're presenting in this movie. I think that's probably the logic leap you'll have to make, is that this wasn't one guy who knew how to hack 18 different things. This was a country that made a plan that had an army of hackers and executed it in a very specific way.
Was Elon Musk the guy that he was saying was his client?
I don't think so.
Okay. He just said he was a very recognizable businessman that does defense contracting. That's all we knew about him. Do you think it's a fictitious person?
That is how some people would describe Elon Musk, but there's a lot of people that are wealthy that.
But any that you know by name? He said this is someone you would know by name. Do you think it's a fictitious person he's talking in their universe? Or like, do you know any defense contractors by name?
No. Maybe
so that's what I was thinking.
Could be.
And he was like, oh, he jokes around a lot, I don't know. And then they have Teslas.
Sure. Yeah, I was surprised they named Tesla in the movie. Because I doubt Tesla agreed for they're like, do you think there's no chance Tesla paid to be in this movie, right?
No,
For their
no, to
self-driving
like,
cars to crash
yeah,
into
that
each
are
other?
crashing. Yeah,
Right. That
I
is
don't think
not
so.
press they're looking for in the current moment, I would say.
You're right. Yeah.
Um, so it's one thing to be like, oh, all the electric cars are driving to this bridge to clog it up. And another thing to be like, all the Teslas from the Tesla dealership and only the white ones are crashing right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, only the white ones.
Yeah, only the white ones. Maybe all the gray ones went to the other bridge.
Yeah. So
Who
funny.
knows? But I like the suspense of that. Like them doing that made sense to me, even though it is a little goofy. That's probably the biggest issue with this movie is it takes something that might be realistic and just gives us the goofiest version of that. And like in this one, they're like almost getting hit by the electric cars. And also 100 deer are staring at us. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you could have done it with like 10 deer and it would have been the same thing basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, that bunker was awesome though. I could have lived down there.
That was a nice bunker.
It was cool. I wouldn't mind if my whole house was that bunker, to be honest.
Well, it has like
nice.
a living room.
Yeah, had a living room.
Although you would be annoyed because it's all DVDs. You don't like DVDs.
I would be annoyed. What kind of rich person only has DVDs?
I think that was very
Get with
accurate. No, they don't know about Blu-rays. Just
Do
because
you
they're
think
rich,
if
they
a
don't.
rich person was making a bunker, one, they would have a TV that small. I didn't believe that either. Two, has only DVDs from the late 90s and early 2000s.
I believed it.
I don't know. I've seen enough like Instagram accounts with very wealthy people with physical media collections, and they don't collect DVDs. They collect 4Ks and film, like a literal film.
Well,
Stuff
hold
like
on. Hold on. These are videos of wealthy people
with
that
like
have
movie theaters and stuff like that in their homes.
I gotcha.
Really nice houses.
Okay.
They're not watching DVDs on their.
They're not like movie
theaters.
people. They're wealthy people with movie rooms.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. How come you don't share those videos with me, man? You gatekeeping those?
No. Why would you care?
I want to see movie rooms.
Okay. I'll send you movie rooms.
All right.
I watch movie room tours online all the time. My living room is practically a movie room. It's my version of I just made it one of the main rooms of the house, not its own room.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else with Leave the World Behind that we must discuss?
The son, a complete waste of time.
Just a total drip.
Yeah.
Who cares? He's literally there to lose his teeth.
Yes.
Like that's the only. I thought they were going somewhere with the whole like I'm a peeping Tom bit, but then it never goes anywhere. The same thing with Ethan Hawke, like, and the daughter. I was just like, why did we inject this into here?
What was the part of him and the daughter?
The daughter was like smoking pot with him out on the back porch. She's talking to her dad in like a very frank way about what she thinks about the son and the father.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why is this in here? I don't understand why.
Man, that Ethan Hawke character too was just a waste of space. He just had nothing interesting about him. No, right. He didn't push the plot forward at all.
At the end, they try to give him a moment when he's talking to the Kevin Bacon character, and he's like, "Look, I'm just a dad trying to do my dad thing too."
I know.
And then he's like, I was so done with the movie.
That's the moment where I thought it was.
I was like, "This is what we built to, and you're not gonna do it." Okay.
That is the moment where I thought the movie is way too preachy. When he said, "I'm just a helpless man or a useless man," right? I don't know how to hunt my own food and salt my own meat, and I don't know how to make my own blast furnace, and I'm just a useless modern man that only uses my cell phone. Like that's what I thought. Oh, this movie is really heavy-handed at this point.
And not only said that, but it followed that with, "And you are not."
Yeah.
Like he's totally like flattering the guy, which it's I'm wondering if he meant that or if he's literally just trying to get the drugs out of the guy for his son with the missing teeth, the
I
radiation
think the
teeth.
second.
You don't think he actually respected the prepper?
To some extent he did, because obviously the guy was well prepared, but I think at that
Mhm.
point he'll flatter him in order to get the medicine.
Right. That makes sense.
Good luck finding medicine that's going to help with radiation poisoning that's made him lose all his teeth overnight.
Where your teeth are literally falling out.
Yeah.
You might
I-
be past the point of no return at that point.
Yeah, you got a couple days and then yeah.
Right. I read an interview with the writer of the book, and he liked this version of the movie. Said it was faithful, but there was a scene left out where the daughter watches Friends and then gathers supplies and then leaves the house to go home to the
Sure.
vacation rental. They cut that out. And I was like,
They had to cut it out
okay.
just so they could end on the song.
Right. And the Friends thing.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Friends in this.
We have that DVD. Like that menu I recognize.
Sure. Yeah. I believe you. They only sold 8 billion of copies of that. I would say over time. I may have bought it for Julie. Didn't I buy?
Oh, then maybe you bought it for us.
Yeah, I think I did years ago. Because Friends was going off Netflix or something like that. I don't remember. Anything else with this movie?
No.
Can we be done with it? I think I'm done with this movie.
Okay.
Never before have I seen a movie that I had no expectation for that built my expectations so much in 5 minutes and then just never lived up.
They didn't keep that tone up at all.
No, they didn't keep up the tone. They didn't keep up the surprise, the bait and switch, nothing like that for me, for my money anyway. All right, leave the world behind. It's time to leave this movie behind. We'll see you guys next time. Until then, goodbye.